Hi everyone. I'm going to start a series of videos on web applications. 803 is the subject code, and I'm going to focus on the Term-2 board exam. You must subscribe because in the coming days, I will be posting videos related to this. Today, I'm going to start by looking at the marks distribution. We'll also discuss the sample paper. This will be followed with videos on the chapters about employability skills and the two units from the book, that is JavaScript and Work Integrated Learning IT Web Applications Part 2, that is Unit 4. Let's look at the Term 2 question paper marks distribution. Now, the Term 2 question paper is divided into three sections. सेक्शन ए 5 मार्क्स का है और इसमें 6 क्वेश्चंस एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी स्किल्स के हैं। ये 6 क्वेश्चंस में से जो 4 क्वेश्चंस हैं जिनमें से आपको कोई भी 3 करने हैं वो 1 मार्क्स के हैं। दैट मीन्स 3 मार्क्स फॉर these 3 questions that you will attempt. There is also one more portion where you get 2 questions जिसमें से आपको एक क्वेश्चन करना है और वो 2 मार्क्स का है। सेक्शन बी 17 marks, major portion of your question paper, and इसमें आपको मिलेंगे 16 questions जिसमें आपको internally कुछ choice मिलेगी। तो 5 questions करने हैं आपने 1 marks के, which is actually 5 out of 7 questions. 2 marks के questions आपको again 5 questions मिलेंगे, उसमें से आपको 3 करने हैं और जो 3 मार्क्स के क्वेश्चंस हैं वो आपको 4 क्वेश्चंस मिलेंगे, उसमें से आपको कोई भी 2 करने हैं। तो ये मिला के आपको 10 क्वेश्चंस सेक्शन बी में से करने हैं 17 नंबर के लिए। सेक्शन सी में 2 ही क्वेश्चंस हैं और वो 4 मार्क्स ईच, heavy duty questions. So let's start by looking at the sample paper for term 2 which the CBSE released some days ago. If you look at the general instructions, you'll find that in section C, there's a mistake of questions 19 to 21 are for 4 marks, but actually these should have been in section B because in section C, the question numbers are 23 to 25 and the questions 19 to 22 are for 3 marks as we discussed earlier. So let's look at section A, which is based on employability skills. We have the first question, what is business opportunity? Now this is actually more based on what we did in class 11 in entrepreneurial skills than in class 12. But in general, you can get a gist of a business opportunity being an idea which is economically viable, which gives profits and which can also grow or shows growth. So the definition that they have given here is it's an attractive and accessible economic idea which could be implemented to create a business, earn maximum profit and leads to further growth. तो ये इसकी डेफिनेशन दी है इन्होंने, वो ठीक है। एंड ऑल्सो इसके अलावा आपको बहुत सारी और टर्म्स हैं जिनमें आपको डेफिनेशन आ सकती है, जैसे एंटरप्रेन्योर कौन है, लाइक हु इज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर, व्हाट इज एन एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप, what is a startup. So when we will discuss these chapters from employability skills, I will be discussing the definitions there. The next one is it is the entrepreneur who takes the first move towards setting up an enterprise, and this is called taking an initiative. So if you go to employability skills, then one of the qualities of a successful entrepreneur given on page 81 is that they take initiative. So coming to question 3, what is the full form of NAPCC? And this is again a part of green skills. Full form is given on page 121, which is actually the PDF page is 132. If you look at this part, that is the Government of India launched the National Action Plan on Climate Change NAPCC on June 2008. इस चैप्टर में और भी बहुत सारे एक्रोनिम्स हैं जैसे FIG, which is Farmers Interest Group. There is CNG, compressed natural gas. There is EESL, which is Energy Efficiency Services Limited. There is PHEV, which is plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. So when we discuss this green skills chapter, I'll give you a whole list of acronyms which you should know. Then the fourth question says define ecosystem, and this again is there on page 120. Ecosystem is the community of living and non-living beings existing together, interacting with each other to support interacting with and supporting each other. So this is the definition. इसके अलावा, as I told you, you can get the definition of e-waste. You could get the definition of greenhouse gases. What are greenhouse gases? Then there is a lot of definitions that could come from this chapter also. So we need to look at that when we do this chapter. So next question is for 2 marks. Question 5, name any two fears seen in entrepreneurs. So if you go to page 104, so you will see that you will see the personal barriers that are given on page 104. That is actually the book, page is 93. So there's, how long will the business last? So there's the feeling of risk that that you're taking, the fear that the customers may not like your product, the fear that you may have financial difficulties, the fear that you may fail in the business. So these are all fears that an entrepreneur may have. And you can give any two out of these. It's always a good idea to give one or two more, so that it kind of, in case there is something missing, you have an extra one or two given fears there. So, and if you have to list two ways to reduce greenhouse gases, you can give more than two. It's not a problem, because at least you will be assured that two of them will be correct. So here we can give things like, we can use instead of using fossil fuel, we can use CNG, we can use electric vehicles, we can use public transport, we can use LED bulbs, we can cut down on air conditioning, and so all this will help us reduce the greenhouse gases. We now come to section B, which is based on the chapter 3 and 4. There are first 5 questions for 1 mark each. The first question is, write the output of the following code. And if you go to the book, you will see that on page 86, they start with objects which have properties and methods. There are 3 built-in objects in your syllabus. There's string, there's math, and there's array. You could get any of these methods from the 3 objects. Here we have a string method. So we say India, that's the string, dot, the dot operator to use the method from the string object, which is 2 uppercase, very straightforward here. So the answer to this one will be capital India, because it's going to turn it all into uppercase. So that's the first one. We come to the next question, question 8, choose the right option. In JavaScript, the definition of a function starts with, and they've given us 4 options. Now, if you look at this topic from the book on page 82, you'll see that they tell you that a function, it is defined with a function keyword followed by the function name and any arguments. So, but in the options that they've given here, we have a return type, And then we have function, keyword, identifier, and parentheses. So even though this question is the answer is wrong, we are going to go with option A because according to the answers given here, this is the most appropriate, although this part is not correct. But these three are correct, and this makes it closest to the answer. And I tell my students always that they should answer the question even if the question is wrong, because the nearest or the closest answer जो आपको सही लग रहा है उसको आप आंसर करिए और ब्लैंक मत छोड़िए. So we come to question number 9. It checks if the value of the left operand is less than or equal to the value of the right operand, and if yes, the condition becomes true. Identify the operator. Now, in this question, they have described an operator where they say that left hand is less than or equal to the right hand operand. तो इनको तो हम operands कहते हैं. सो जब हम ऑपरेटर्स डिस्कस करेंगे तो मैं आपको बता दूंगी कि हर एक जो ऑपरेटर होता है उसमें ऑपरेंड्स भी होते हैं, तो जिन पे ऑपरेटर्स एक्ट करते हैं. सो दीज आर द टू ऑपरेंड्स and this is our operator. So what is the operator? It is less than equal to. So you have to go according to the description of the operator. Now the next one says dash are used to explain the code and make it more readable in JavaScript programs. So if you look at the page 197 of class 11 book, you will find a detailed definition of comments. So these are preceded by two forward slashes used to improve the readability of the program and will be ignored by the interpreter. So that's the answer. Comments are used to make the code more readable. So that brings us to question 11. We can create a fully functional form in a web page using dash. If we go to the chapter the last chapter, we'll see that on page 127, they say that you can create a fully functional form using MEW. Uska full form hai Microsoft Expression Web. Now, the data filled using a form can be stored in a database or sent to a specific email address. Now, जो not fully functional forms होते हैं HTML या CSS में आप बनाते हैं वो static होते हैं. आप उसमें जो भी डेटा डालेंगे वो वहीं दिखेगा. It will actually not be received at inside a database. तो वो save नहीं होगा कहीं, वो interactive भी नहीं होगा. So that is why this is called a fully functional form. And the full and what you have to input here is you got to input MEW. So you can write MEW or you can write the full form also. Another acronym is IIS, and again this you will find on the same page. If you go down here, you will see that this is an inbuilt server जो कि आपके Windows के साथ आता है, IIS. Then we come to, you can use the dash feature in MEW to transfer the contents of your entire website, preserving the structure to a remote computer. If you go to page 149, actually 141 of the book and 149 of the PDF. So 141. If you go to page 141, you will see that it gives you web packages. And here there's a definition which says, which is actually exactly the same wordings as the question. You can use the web package feature to transfer contents of your entire website, preserving the structure to a remote computer. So that is the answer here. Okay. We come now to the second part of this section B, which has marks, 2 marks per question. So there's question 14 here. Name any 2 methods of the math object in JavaScript. And as I told you that in your book you have examples of the math object, 99 of the PDF and 91 of the book. So you'll find that the math object is given and then there are lots of methods given here. So any of these methods can be given in the answer. Next is 15th question. Define an event handler in JavaScript. Name any two commonly used event handlers. Now, event handlers again in your book, it is on page 107 but 115 of this PDF. So on 107 page, you'll find events and the definition of the event handler. So here's the event handler. तो इसमें आपको events की definition भी आ सकती है. So all events are things that happen, usually user actions that are associated with an object. और जो event handler होता है, that is a command that is used to specify actions in response to an event. So एक चीज तो होती है actions and then there is the command that is used to specify those actions in response to an event. So if you, for example, what is the event here? The event is the page is loading. Page loads in a browser. That is the event. What is the event handler? We've done here. That's the command onload. Then when the user exits the page is the event. And what is the event handler? On unload. So similarly, they've given you these. So we can discuss these later when we do this chapter. Next we come to, and remember this has two parts. So first part is define. So uski definition ka 1 mark and then name any two event handlers, that is another 1 mark. That means half mark for each event handler. So be sure that you answer both parts of the question. The next is question number 16, where they give you a case study based question for finding syntax errors. Sunil has written the following code to store subjects in an array and display the number of subjects in the array. This code is not running properly. Identify and underline syntax errors in the following code and write the corrected code. So two things to be done. One is identify, underline. So पहले आपने यही कोड पहले लिखना है. इसको जब आप लिख रहे हैं तो इसको ध्यान दें कि everything is fine. Like function keyword में F capital तो नहीं है. अगर आपको यहाँ पे name दिया है, वो name ठीक है कि नहीं, क्योंकि again this is like a variable name only. And जो brackets हैं वो होने चाहिए because without bracket the function will not take place. So then braces होने चाहिए. Then we look at the code. Now here in this code there is this word var which has capital V. So this is wrong. Document doesn't have a capital D. So this is wrong. And this variable is not the same as this variable because इसमें s छोटा है. So these are the three mistakes. So you will point them out, you will write them again, and this time when you write, you will write VAR small, okay, and you will write document with small d, okay. So make sure that when you're writing it again, you don't make any other mistake. So be careful that ये ना हो कि आपने अपनी मिस्टेक एक जोड़ दी है और जो निकालनी थी वो निकाल के कुछ और जोड़ दिया. So there's also 1 mark for writing this correctly. So see that you write it correctly. Okay. Then we come to the next one, which is the 17th question. List any two web authoring tools. If you go to page 153 of this PDF document, you will see that it shows you, sorry, 154 of the PDF document, 146 of the book. You will notice there are Authoring tools is the heading here, and they've given you two authoring tools. One is Composer and the other one is Dreamweaver. So two, तो यही दो दिए हैं. I think there's no other. Question 18, explain the purpose of SEO checker. Now जो SEO है वो एक अच्छा खासा rockstar kind of topic है. So you should always know what is SEO, search engine optimization. I'm sure everybody knows by now. We'll go to page 133 and take a look at SEO. So page 133 on the PDF, 125 in the book. So there's SEO. I'm saying the book page because some of you may have the print copy of the book. So अगर आपके पास print copy है तो 125 page पे है. और अगर आप इसको ऐसे ही देख रहे हैं किसी machine पे तो then it is the PDF that opens, right? So that's why. Now, SEO is an interesting and important topic. इसमें से question आना ही आना है. So remember to read this carefully. They've talked about checker built in with the HTML editor, gives detailed reports that help you optimize the website for better ranking. It's a tool. Basically, it's a tool which is built in and with the MEW that we are doing, the Microsoft Expression Web, so that you can get detailed reports and that will help you optimize the website for better ranking. Search engine में ranking भी तो high होनी चाहिए, नहीं तो आपका page ही नहीं दिखेगा. Okay, so that brings me to the next set of questions now. ये वाले questions जो हैं वो 3 marks के हैं. So remember they will have parts, and if they have parts in them, remember to answer each part really well, because उसके बाद फिर आपको उस हिसाब से ही marks मिलने वाले हैं. So there's the first question is explain the pop method in JavaScript. So pop method जो method है वो हमने arrays में पढ़ा है. तो arrays में the pop method removes or deletes the last element from the array, and when you use this method, you use it by writing the name of the array and then give a dot operator and then write the method pop. And if you assign that to a variable, the variable will store the deleted element. So let's start with the example of this. So we are going to look at an example here where ink khatam ho gayi lagti hai. Chalo, doesn't matter. A, B, and C. We have 3 elements in this array. Okay, and if I use another variable x is equal to, and I'm going to say add dot pop, okay, and I'm going to output now document dot write x, and I'm going to also output the array. So, and I suggest that you write everything, like you should write the HTML, you should write everything like from the beginning. So I'm just giving you part of this. So the first thing it will output is C, and then it will output A and B. So these will be the new elements of the array, and this is going to be the element that is deleted and stored. So it returns the deleted item when you use this method. So I hope you got this. We come now to the next question, which is what are the important properties of an anonymous function in JavaScript? Give an example. You go to page 75, you'll notice that there is this line here, JavaScript allows us to create anonymous functions. So the definition is really not there, but you can derive the definition. आप कह सकते हैं कि when a function is assigned to a variable and the function does not have any function name, So there is no function name. It's only the keyword function and the parentheses. So identifier missing hai yahan pe. And we have assigned this to a variable. Then it becomes an anonymous function. And now when we have to call this or invoke this function, तो इसको हम average or so we will just call it with the name of that variable. We'll now look at another example of uh, anonymous function. We have a variable greet and we are going to assign to it an anonymous function. So the function, as I told you before, will have the keyword function followed by the parentheses. And in the braces, we are going to give an output statement using console.log. I don't think anything else will work. Although in the book they have given something else, but I'm not sure if that is going to work. Anyway, we are going to use this variable to call the function. So greet लिखते हैं और फिर हम लगाते हैं ये parentheses and we'll save this function and we are going to run this. Now to run this function, I have to press the keys Control, Shift and I. We'll see that it shows hello from an anonymous function. Now, the other thing that can be done here is we can have a parameter. So we are going to use X as our parameter and we are going to also output that X. And here we are going to use a string to pass to this parameter X. So we say, hello, dear students. So sorry, we are going to say just dear students and we are going to add that to the earlier. So when we go here and refresh this, we'll see now that it's added the dear students parameter to hello from an anonymous function. That brings us to question 21. Write a function in JavaScript which accepts 3 numbers as arguments and displays the greatest number. Now, this can be done in multiple ways. There is one example of this in the marking scheme. We can take a look at that. We start by writing function and give the name greatest, and to that we add these 3 parameters or arguments, and we say if n1 greater than n2, and then there's a nested if here. The thing is that you should actually be careful and change this to small I and F so that you get. And also, it's a good idea to put braces here and close those braces here so that the nested if stays in the braces there, so that you have the else, if and else statements after that. So this is one way of doing it. We can use the function largest, again 3 variables. We take a variable max. It's just any variable. You could take x, y, z instead, but we've called it max. Now we say if n1 greater than n2, and we used and logical operator here, and n1 greater than n3. So we are using the comparison operator and we are using the and operator here. So in this case, both the conditions have to be true for n1 to be equal to max. So we have to assign n1 to max in case this is true. Otherwise, we can check if n2 is greater than n3, because definitely n1 is not greatest. If that is giving us false, so we need to check the other two. तो अगर n2 greater than n3 है तो max की value को हम n2 के बराबर है. That means we assign n2 to max. After that, if this is false, then the only thing that is left is n3. That is, the maximum value should be n3. And then we return max. So we return this value, and when we call the function, we say document.write largest. एक चीज आपको याद रखनी है कि जब आपके पास return statement है तो you need an output statement. But in case you have an output statement inside the function, अगर आपने document.write max लिखा था तो then you don't need an output statement outside the function. Another very simple way of doing this would have been just giving the function, keyword function, and writing largest and passing these three variables, and then say return math.max n1 n2 n3. तो इसमें भी आपके पास सीधा आंसर आ जाता है, which is the maximum number. So that's another way of doing it. We come to 22nd question, which is CSS के टेम्पलेट्स का URL बताना है आपने. तो ये आपकी बुक में 145 पे आपको मिलता है. यहाँ पे these are the list of websites that offer templates. So just try and see which ones out of these you want to give. This is again a 3-mark question. So तीनों ठीक होने चाहिए so that you get all 3 marks. Next, we come to section C. And section C has 3 questions, out of which 2 are from JavaScript and 1 is based on the last chapter. Now, in JavaScript, the first question is really easy because it asks you to accept the first name, last name from the user. You can use a prompt statement, take the user input for first name, last name. 2 prompt statements you need because you have to display the number of characters of the first name. So एक में ही आप दोनों ले लेंगे तो फिर वो काम नहीं आएगा. So you'll have to use 2 variables, one for first name, second for last name. And another variable should store the current date. And then you have to output it in this way. That means alphabet actually of the first name, dot, and then the second name. So it's given here in the marking scheme. We can take a look at that solution, which is pretty straightforward. We have the prompt statements. We also use date. Now ये याद रखना है आपको कि जब आप date use करते हो, you should write new and then write date with parentheses and assign it to some variable to store the date. It will give you the current date because ये आपकी system से date ले लेता है, current date. And then you can write the length of, so this is the property of string property. Length निकालने के लिए write the string. अब यहाँ पे वो variable f है, dot length. And the third thing that you were supposed to do was take the first alphabet. F0 will give you the first name ka first alphabet. Again, in quotes, put a dot and ye concatenation hai, plus sign, and then put L, that is the last name. So each of these will carry marks. I'm sure for prompt you'll get 1 mark, for date you will get 1 mark, for length you'll get 1 mark, and for this last statement you will get 1 mark. So it's 4 marks. So we come to the next question, 24, which is a JavaScript array is initialized as follows. Var array is 20, 40, 60, 80. So 4 elements हैं इसमें, and then there's the following code to manipulate the array. So ये 4 statements take place after this. You have to determine the contents of the array. And so let's start with the first thing. So this is the first array, but after this line, this array will start looking like, because shift जो है वो first place से निकाल देता है, so we'll be left with the last 3. Then we come to the next statement, which is going to remove 1 from the end. Okay, so it will remove 80 from the end. This statement is going to add 10 to the end of this array. So we'll get this. And this last statement is going to add 100 to the beginning of the array. So there. So when you answer this, you should say 100, 40, 60, and 10. Then we come to the last question, which is Rita created a website. Before she publishes the website, she needs to verify if there are any pending issues. This will help her save time and unnecessary problems that may arise post publishing the website. Give her the necessary steps to verify and fix errors if any. So ये आपकी book में actually दिया है on page 137 of the book. So fixing errors. So this exact statement, before you publish the website, you need to verify if there are any pending issues. It will help you save time and unnecessary problems that may arise post publishing the website, exact words. So to do that, you need to use these steps. First step is to open the website, select tools, recalculate hyperlinks. The recalculate hyperlink dialog box will show up, and so you say yes, and then it will automatically fix any issues. So we are going to look at this when we do this chapter. We will also do this practically, and you should be very clear with it after that. So that brings us to the end of the sample paper. So I hope that you've subscribed to the channel already. And if you haven't, do so now and follow these videos to do well in the board exam that's going to come up very soon.